Welcome, Jessica. Jessica Weaver is going to speak to us today. You know, we all live in different places, not so different, though, not as much as Jessica. And we live around different people. And that place, wherever we live, and those people, wherever we live, in that place and for those people, we represent Jesus. And in that place and among those people, we have influence. And in that place, we make a difference. And I think, like the song just said, let love arise. And this is what I think about when I think about Europe. I have friends there, but I know that Jessica has a different kind of even understanding probably of the world because of her work there and her opportunity to represent us. And you know, that's how we feel, Jessica. You're one of us, and you're speaking and living a life that represents us. But most of all, she lives a life that represents God. And the ministry, TeachBeyond, we want to ask a question about that today, and hopefully you'll answer. And the question is, what's up? So if you would come on up, and then afterwards, I think we will have some questions, and then we'll all pray for you.
All right. So, I know I talk to y'all every summer. Let me know if you can't see anything. So I'm just going to give you a few highlights from the year and kind of update you on what's going on, and then talk to you a little bit about TeachBeyond itself and what we're doing, not just in Europe, but across the world too. So I selected a few pictures from this past year. It's hard to narrow down like an entire year in a 15-minute talk, but here are some highlights of the year. And so the picture with me in the middle and a lot of my colleagues was taken this time last year. We were in Kondern, Germany, and we were having our cabinet meetings and also celebrating the 70th anniversary of TeachBeyond. So yeah, it's a big deal. And so that was just, we'd had a couple days of meetings, and we're having the 70th anniversary party at BFA, which is a boarding school in the Black Forest of Germany. It's Black Forest Academy. So if I say something like BFA and you're like, what is that? Just stop me. But Black Forest Academy is what that means. And that is a school that TeachBeyond started 65 years ago. So, but I just love my colleagues because they're more like family and friends. And it's nice to work in a place where we can be together and have fun. I have some pictures that were taken in March with this same group of ladies in Buenos Aires, of all places, and we're standing. So, because we were there for some meetings as well. So, the upper one with all the food was taken in last November, December, right on the edge of both months. But it was in one of our creative access countries. So I know we're live streaming, so I won't explain exactly where that is. You can ask me afterwards, and I will tell you. But I was visiting there with some colleagues with a school that has been part of TeachBeyond for several years, and also with a new school that is a hybrid. They have online classes and in-person classes, and they actually work with a lot of refugees from some of those places that Danny was talking about today. And so I was able to meet some of those refugees and hear their stories. And I'm just telling you, it is amazing what God is doing in that community, and how people from that community are ministering to each other as well. Like, it's really beautiful. Again, that's probably a story for me to tell, not on camera, but it was just a really, I was very honored by that experience. It was a very beautiful time. And the bottom picture that's in a chapel, it's actually in Buenos Aires. Actually, it's not in Buenos Aires. It's in Cordoba, Argentina. TeachBeyond was privileged to be at the opening ceremonies of a teachers college that was started by our national director in Argentina. There are lots of Christian schools in Argentina, but there are no Christian teachers. And so this college was developed by our national director there to help teachers who are Christians become, trained and certified so we can populate these Christian colleges. And so I was telling a quick story about some things in Europe. And so you probably can't tell, but I am speaking there. So, but that was just a really wonderful time too. And I had been to Cordoba and Buenos Aires before. I used to be with a Christian music group, so it was nice. I hadn't been there in 30 years to go back and see some of those places again and how that worked. I have a bunch of other stories I'm sure I can tell you. But one thing that I don't have a picture of, but the prayer today for Italy, Jeanette asked me, what country would you like us to pray for? And we started helped a school start in Italy, and it opened its doors Monday. So that's one reason why I wanted to pray for Italy. I visited, it's in Turin. I visited them in January to help encourage them and help kind of get things going. And one of my colleagues came as well. Actually, a couple of my colleagues came. And so it was really nice to see that. And I also was able to visit, while I was there, I have some friends just north of Milan who have an anti-trafficking ministry that I actually support. So it was very nice to see that video that was played, could kind of touch all those things. So just wanted to share why that was on my heart today. And so thank you for your prayers there. So one of the big updates is I'm actually on sabbatical. This was a long time coming. I've been preparing for a year for it. So I started sabbatical in July 1st, and I will go through the end of December, but really, after the New Year's holidays is when I'll start back again. So I'm in the States for a while. And this is definitely a time of reconnecting, but also unplugging, if that makes sense. Reconnecting to God, but unplugging from work. And so that's why I'm here in September, which doesn't usually happen. I'm usually back in Prague by now. So I'm very excited. It's been nice the last couple of months, just kind of hanging out, doing a couple little, I have a few creative projects kind of in the background that I've started working on, and just kind of relaxing and not doing much. Next month, I'm going on the walk. It used to be called the Walk to Emmaus. But now they're calling it the Great Banquet. And so I'm doing that next month, and I'm really looking forward to that as a nice retreat and a time to reconnect as well. So you may see me around, you may not, I don't know. So I'm kind of traveling around, seeing some folks. I'm probably going to see some friends in Georgia and Tennessee and Ohio and stuff. So just kind of doing that. But I just wanted to let you know that was happening, and I'll be excited to go back in January, but it's also been nice to kind of not do anything and not think I'll be honest, it was kind of hard to completely unplug and not want to check my email, but I've been very good about it. So yeah, very good. So I wanted just to, TeachBeyond has been really thinking about what we're doing and how that we are walking alongside the church and reaching the nations. And we're doing that through education. Sorry, I haven't had enough coffee this morning, apparently. And so I wanted to tell you a couple of statistics. 3.4 billion need to hear the gospel. That's 1 in 3 people in the world need to hear the gospel that have not been told the gospel for the first time. And more than 1 in 3 have no access to education. It's like over 250 million people do not have access to education. And so how will this generation most effectively hear the gospel? And we believe that education is a big part of that. Not the only way that God is moving, but we feel like education can get the message of the gospel in front of more people. So how do we respond to this need? And we know that transformational education opens doors. Sally today was talking about the displaced and the marginalized, and we have some programs within TeachBeyond where that is who we focus on. So one of them is called Beyond Borders, and that is for refugees. And we mostly work in Greece, on the island of Lesbos and in Athens. With these populations, these displaced populations, we provide English lessons, but we also have some other ministries there as well. I was fortunate enough to go to the camp on Lesbos last year and see firsthand what is happening and what is going on there. So there are over 1,000 children in this camp, and only 200 can come to our English lessons. So that's not very many. So our teams there have started doing afternoon outreaches where they're able to go to people's homes in the camp. And when I say homes, they're those FEMA tents that you like. It's not a home; it's a tent. But not only are they able to give English lessons to the children, usually the whole family sit in on these English lessons, and the women of the families, especially because they're not in their countries where they came from. So the husbands are more likely to allow their wives to be educated when they're not in there. So it's just amazing how that is happening. And the curriculum they use is biblically based. So they're hearing the gospel and learning English at the same time. And the other, our other department that we have that is for the marginalized is called Open Schools Worldwide. And this Open Schools was started in South Africa. It's now in 12 different countries in I think 2 or 3 continents now, 3 continents. And so they are a literacy and numeracy education program. They train volunteers. They have a system to help with numeracy and literacy. And the idea is to help children and sometimes adults who have not had any access to education get to a level where they can enter into formal education. And so I was able to visit it was actually a dump outside of Johannesburg in South Africa a couple of years ago. And there were 2 locations on this dump where the families lived there. The children lived on this dump. Their families got their living by going through the garbage and selling things. And so they have these 2 separate sites on either end of this pretty large dump for the children to learn English, to learn their even literacy in their own language. And just last year, I think the superintendent of schools, someone from the school district came and tested those children, and 32 of them entered into formal school after that. So, I mean, that's what we're offering to them, and it's been very, very helpful in a lot of places, not just in South Africa. I wish I could name them all, but because they're not in Europe, I don't know exactly where they are. So TeachBeyond is a movement where transformational education is the avenue for God's work around the world. And I want to tell you a story about Albania in Europe and how I see transformational education working there. So this is a school in Leja, Albania, which I'm sure none of you have ever heard of. So might not even be able to point to Albania on a map. I know a lot of time I didn't really know where it was until we started working there. But so Leja is about an hour away from Tirana, which is the capital. And this school is a school for Albanians. All the teachers mostly are Albanian. There's 1 or 2 Americans there. And so this story is from one of our teachers there who is an American. And she was teaching an English lesson on adjectives. And so she wrote on the board 2 words. She was explaining how if you put an adjective at the end of a word, it'll change the meaning. And she wrote worth and price on the board. And then she said, I can change their meaning by adding the adjective less. So she put worthless and priceless and explained what the 2 meanings were. And she said, I don't want you to let anyone say that you are worthless, because you are priceless. You are a child of God. And after the lesson, she really didn't think much more. She went on with the rest of the lesson. And after the lesson, a student came up to her and said, I'm really sorry. I didn't participate much in class today. And then just kind of started to cry. And the teacher asked her, like, so what's going on? She said, no one has ever told me that I'm priceless. And I just really couldn't do much after that, And so that is an example of what transformational education is. That it's not just teaching English, but it's also instilling in value and worth to these students. And hopefully that will cascade out through their families, through their communities. I have many stories of children who do not come from believing families, who end up going home and talking about God to their family, and their family coming back to the teacher saying, can you help me, give me some resources or something to talk to my kids about God and Jesus? I don't know anything about it. So that's where it starts. It starts with the student, and actually it starts with the teacher, with the Holy Spirit transforming them, and then hopefully it cascades out. So transformational education is the simple yet profound belief that children and adults can undergo redemptive and holistic transformation through the power of God's Word and by His Holy Spirit active in people through education, making them increasingly like Christ in their world. And that's what we hope to do at TeachBeyond. So at TeachBeyond, we are reaching the nations through education. We're reaching the unreached, the displaced, government leaders, alongside the church, and that's very important. Vulnerable populations, the next generation, we are reaching the nations through education. So I know that was just a short snippet of things, so I'm more than happy to answer questions, but I wanted that this new messaging we just came out with, and I really enjoy that, especially that last bit. I think it's very powerful to show how education can impact for the gospel throughout the world. So any questions? I can expand on some of the things. I know I told you just a little bit about what has happened in the last year since I saw you last, so I could definitely tell you more. But yes, ma'am.
You said when you're talking about open school that you teach literacy and
Numeracy, so counting and math, and they don't know their numbers. So yeah.
It just, you keep up, you keep stats on how many versions you have amongst your students or adults.
Of the literature, of the curriculum,
Right.
I can find out. Yeah, I know it's been I know the open school, their curriculum has been translated, I know, to Spanish, Portuguese, and I think they're doing it in the Philippines as well. So, yeah.
But what I meant was baptism.
Oh, baptisms. No, we don't do that. I mean, when we gather numbers, we will ask that, but we don't ask people to track it.
I got it.
So, yeah, because, yeah.
It'd be hard to track anyway because you never know the ripple effect. Sure.
Right. It's easier, our camps.
Yeah.
It's easier to track it with them because they're there for that week, and then we have a very intentional follow-up program with our camps that we do. So I think it's easier to track it there. It's harder when kids might start going to church, but you don't know about whether, so you just know in school stuff. So, but it happens. I don't have that number. Yeah.
How would one get involved in doing what you do, or what you're like, a TeachBeyond teacher?
Yeah, so we have a mobilization department in North America, and also we also send teachers. We mobilize through the UK and South Africa and South America too. So we have offices in those locations. So they would apply. They go through an application process. It's pretty involved. And then there's a safeguarding process because that's very important to us, safeguarding. So they have to do a safeguarding interview, and then they have to have a job offer from a school or a location before we fully accept them. There's several interviews in there and things like that, but yeah.
Elementary through high school? Or
Higher education. If it has to do with education, we do it. So we have people in seminaries, theological schools, and colleges. So we have a higher ed department. We help recruit, like for Black Force Academy. It's they have dorms, so we help recruit dorm parents, resident assistants, maintenance people. Like, you don't have to be an educator to work with TeachBeyond. We need people in communications and all kinds of things. So, yeah. But basically, if it has to do with education, we have our hands in it. So, yeah.
Do you feel like you've seen changes in the culture of where you live since you've been there? Like, I mean, not that you've been changed. I'm not asking about you changing the culture. Just kind of
Right.
that, like, do you feel like things are getting more open to this or less open?
I can speak more about the Czech Republic because that's where I am. I think in the younger generations, things are more open. People my age or older just don't really want to talk about religion. Like, it was beat out of them during communism. So, like, you have 3 generations of people who are completely unchurched in places that were part of the former, Soviet bloc. So there's that, like places like Albania, that was a very corrupt, and we were talking like there was communism in Czech Republic, but in Albania they were ruled by a tyrant basically who really had some mind control over them in such a way that other countries didn't. And so Albania is still, I would say, an emerging country because, like, yeah, I've stayed in all kinds of different places. I've stayed from a 5-star resort on the ocean for a conference to, like, not very nice conditions in Albania, So, I think, but I think with the younger generation, they're more open. I think they're seeking more. And I'm seeing that in Prague, like with the churches there. They're definitely younger. I would say 30 and below are the main demographic in most of the thriving churches. So, yeah. But you also have to realize, like, a lot of those places are international hubs too. So they're international churches. There's like a big student population from the universities too. But I am seeing more interest, at least, in young people. Yeah. It looks different in different places. Like, I can tell you, like, we're not planting churches. Like, we want to work with the churches. But sometimes church plants happen. Like, a few years ago in a country in Southeast Asia, I won't go into the whole long story, but a school was started in a unique way, kind of, but it was in a place where they had been trying. A church had been trying to to church plant there, and it was just didn't work. But once the school started, it helped start this church too. So you don't, yeah. But it just depends on the church and the areas. Like say in Athens, there are churches that work with our ministries with refugees, and then it just looks different in different places. At BFA, there is a church that's connected to BFA, so they do a lot through that as well. And so, but I would say the one thing about that is that the mission of the church is to go and make disciples, and that's what we are trying to walk alongside the church to do through education. All right. Well, come while we have pizza today. If you have questions about specific stories, I can share more about, especially about the creative access stuff that I can't really talk about. I'm more than happy to expound on that. So thank you for your time. Thanks for letting me come and speak, and I'm glad I got to see all of you. Yeah.